Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. We're going to talk about China censoring video games. We're going to talk about how here in the West there are organizations that also want to censor video games, but the other way around. They want games to be more quote-unquote inclusive and diverse, whereas China's like, no, everybody has to be completely 100% straight. Good guys have to be good guys, bad guys have to be bad guys, men have to be men, women have to be women, and also your kids can only play video games 3 hours a week. So let's talk about that. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 236,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. We do talk about video games somewhat. We don't do as much video game news as other channels do, but this is worth mentioning because China is getting very censor happy with video games. And meanwhile, you know, we've got other organizations asking for Rockstar to censor Grand Theft Auto, and Blizzard is censoring itself because of all the pushback from the Cosby Suite. But China is really going all in on traditional gender norms and all of this stuff, which is going to be problematic, I think, because I think Chinese developed games are going to clash with the increasingly left-leaning politics of Western video game developers. We'll see what happens. Coming from CBR.com, China's strict guidelines for video game developers outlined in this new report. The report reveals some of the specific guidelines that Chinese authorities recently imposed on video game developers. They did this for movies, too. China recently introduced a set of guidelines for video game developers in the midst of an industry-wide crackdown. Further details concerning those guidelines have now been released, hinting at the level of control and censorship Chinese authorities are imposing on developers. According to the South China Morning Post, regulatory reviews will flag anything that violates Chinese laws, leaks state secrets, or seems to promote superstition, gambling, well, no more loot boxes, I guess, gambling, violence, or self-harm. Wait a second, what, violence? Okay. Specified in a memo from a recent internal training course organized for developers by the Chinese State's Gaming Association, compliance with these guidelines and a display of a correct set of values are necessary in order to ensure games will be approved in the future. And if you think this can't happen here, it can totally happen here. While these guidelines may seem broad, the memo also stated the rules will be implemented in a much stricter and more specified way. As an example, video games set in a post-apocalyptic world in which survival depends on killing will not be likely to pass. Neither will video games that allow players to make certain choices. Some games have blurred moral boundaries. Players can choose to be either good or evil, but we don't think that games should give players this choice, and this must be altered, the memo read. So you're not going to be allowed to be a bad guy anymore. It was previously reported that, along with film and television, video game characters described by Chinese authorities as effeminate males and LGBTQ plus storylines will be effectively banned from screens. No more Last of Us Part 2. The memo also provided more details on this ban, stating if regulators can't tell the character's gender immediately, the setting of the characters could be considered and red flags will be raised. This applies to male characters dressed as or behaving like a woman. Final Fantasy VII. Of course, that was originally done as kind of a joke, and in the remake, it is a little more in-depth. Settings were also covered in this memo, specifically historical settings, which the memo stated could not distort facts or deliberately provoke controversy. Oh, God. Candy Crush Saga for everyone, I guess. 3 hours a week. It added historical figures with established narratives must not be refashioned. Furthermore, the memo specifically warned against video games depicting any version of Yahtzees or Japan. Any game that encourages players to kill barbarians could be seen as spreading colonialism, while games featuring Japanese warlords could be seen as glorifying militarism. This could totally happen here, guys. This could totally happen here. We're going to talk about, some of these demands, coming from the West too. I think we're gonna have a culture clash here in the gaming industry very, very soon. Oddly, the memo also seemingly warned against creating games that resemble Japanese video games. I mean, Genshin Impact, anyone? Anyone? Genshin Impact? Yeah. The memo also touched on the use of religion and use of symbols. Crucifixes and swastikas, for example, should be used with caution. Chinese Communist Party-ruled government has cracked down on all forms of entertainment. The realm of video games authorities have placed an increasing amount of pressure on tech giants and developers such as Tencent, NetEase, as well as gamers themselves, with minors now prohibited to play more than 3 hours a week. Yeah, this sounds great. This sounds like a lot of fun, right? Yeah, everybody's talking about it. Video games aren't pure entertainment, according to China. They must represent a correct set of values of the country's history and culture, said the publication. China realizes that entertainment is more than entertainment. And this kind of leads us to, all this talk of a culture war. Why are people pushing so hard into entertainment with their ideology? Because it's a massive platform and you can shape and control minds with it. I mean, it's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, look at the cultural impact the original Star Wars had on our generation, had for generations. I mean, people have made it a damn religion, So yeah, this is definitely going to change things. This is very interesting. Bounding in the Comics had a couple of stories up that kind of dovetail with this. So while China's, going ban happy one way and being like everything has to be traditional and conservative, and good guys have to be good guys and bad guys have to be bad guys, and everybody's got to be straight, unequivocally straight, and also no Satanism and no Yahtzee stuff and whatever. In the UK, there's an organization calling on Rockstar to censor Grand Theft Auto 5, the remaster, out of fear it will promote violence against trans and gender diverse people. I think what's going to happen, because China is throwing so much money into the gaming industry right now, is that I think a lot of these companies are going to follow suit if they want their games to be released in China. And I'm not agreeing with the censorship at all. I'm just saying the bigger issue might be that the Chinese game market is going to be for China by China. It's just like their movies are for China by China, and Hollywood is going to have to learn to adapt and not pander anymore to China. Look how many years Hollywood pandered to China, and it turns out that it's for nothing, because half the movies now you're not going to be able to release over there. It's going to be the same with video games too. You're not allowed to let people have choices about being good or evil. You're definitely not allowed to do anything like this in video games, So we've got censorship demands coming from the other side of it too, where, people are supposedly literally going to get killed over video games. I mean, this is how important games are to culture now. If nothing else, you look at this, and the Chinese are flat out saying it, like, video games are incredibly important to culture. Blizzard making all kinds of changes to World of Warcraft, again, coming from Bounding in the Comics, in the service of being inclusive. And Blizzard this is all about fixing their image, obviously. But apparently part of the settlement, as I understand it, with Blizzard is that they've more or less have all these diversity and inclusion guidelines, I guess, that they have to adhere to now. So you're going to see more of this coming from Blizzard. Again, we're going to see a massive culture clash. We're going to see Western developed games go further left, again, diversity and inclusion, and then they're going to butt up against Chinese developed games, which are huge. I mean, globally, they're huge, but they're going to go way, way, way more conservative. So very interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see if, the West starts to, change its games to pander to China. Who are you making your games for? Are you going to pander to China? Are you going to pander to activists? I mean, it's getting pretty crazy out there, guys, for sure. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Going to keep an eye on this development. This is going to change a lot. I mean, China is the most populated country in the world. It's going to change a lot. It's going to change a lot for Hollywood, and it's going to change a lot for Silicon Valley. So I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.